Welcome back to the Samong Yang Outdoors podcast. This week, we're still joined by our good friends, the Vining brothers, Clayton and Colton over here. Last week, if you missed it, we pretty much dove specifically into the topic of archery elk hunting here in Northeast Washington, because that's a podcast that I feel like hasn't been done because most people don't hunt here because there's no elk. So go check it out if that's something that you're going to do this year, or not just archery hunting, but like rifle hunting. Like, we share a lot of information there. They share a lot of information about it. Me and Nate were just asking questions about it. But I'm joined here by Nate as always. And in this podcast, we're going to kind of just jump around the bubble. We just, I guess, want to touch about how you guys go about your season and, predator hunting, maybe a little bit deer hunting, maybe a little bit more of other stuff that happens around the fall season. But before we get into that, we just want to thank the business partners that make this podcast possible. First, Vortex Optics. You already know the drill. Every optics you need, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, you name it, vortexoptics.com. They have you covered.
Yeah, another company with us is Tacticam. They just make fantastic trail cams, great photo quality, great reception, really user-friendly, and just gives you that opportunity to not disturb places, get out there, put a camera, and just let the camera do the work.
Lastly, OnX Hunt. The OnX Hunt app, it is the most pivotal piece of gear in any hunter's pocket nowadays. It'll tell you private land boundaries, where you can hunt, where you cannot hunt, and so much more. It has, I use probably 1% of what that app has to offer. And you can do so much e-scouting, have so much pre-planned knowledge before you even go out to do your actual hunt. So check them out. Everybody needs that app. It's on your phone. You can use it on the desktop, whatever you want to do. Code SY20 at checkout to saving your subscription.
We are back with the Bearded Brothers this week. Bearded Brothers Outdoors. These guys are from our neck of the woods, kind of this Northeast Washington region, and we've just been having a blast talking about hunting, kind of specifically to this area, but tidbits of information that I think anybody could really find useful. But this week we're going to jump around over the board a little bit. We're going to talk about some predator hunting. I know we want to talk about the story of the cougar you killed in 2023, and then maybe a little bit of deer, maybe a little bit more elk. And
yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, you know the drill here. But if you're just listening, go take a peek at the YouTube video for a second, because we got some massive trophies sitting.
If you guys tuned in last week, you might think that this elk up here is the same elk that we had hanging that we were talking about. That was the over-the-counter giant, the 350. This is a different over-the-counter.
This bull's smaller.
This is the over-the-counter 343. So they don't really talk about this one. But no. But in all reality, these guys have found consistent success through the years in this area of the state, and everybody can get lucky every once in a while, hopefully. But going from that to being consistent year in and year out in a state that offers a lot of really good game opportunities, but there's some difficulty that goes with it, is a pretty cool thing. So we've been enjoying picking your brains.
It's impressive to look at the track record of what these guys have done. And you just, anybody who has any sort of local knowledge here can respect what they do year in and year out. I mean, killing a 350 class bull in your lifetime here, I mean, that's a lifetime goal.
Absolutely.
To be killing bulls like that, almost every year, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
It's called lucky.
Lucky is killing one every 20 years. Killing them every year, it's not so much luck anymore.
Before we jump in, we got to do it. We got Trivia Duel.
That's right.
And as you guys know, this is our weekly little trivia question. If you guys have trivia questions that you think would be fun, that you want to maybe make it on the podcast, or have something that could give us some ideas, because in reality, we aren't very good at finding trivia questions.
No, we're terrible at it.
But go ahead and leave a comment, send us an email. We'd love to interact with you guys. Obviously, this podcast is just another way to try and interact with you guys. But Smong, do you want to hit it first this week?
I will. Here's my question for you guys. In the spirit of predators, and I kind of have a feeling they already know this answer, but we'll see. So here's the question. There are often names or terms to label both female and male animals. For example, a female turkey is called a hen. What are female bobcats called?
Is it a queen?
Queen was going to be my...
Okay, he already crushed it. Yes, yes, it's a queen.
Okay.
Yes, it is a queen. So it's funny because I would assume because a bobcat is a cat,
Mm-hmm.
like they would have the same names as a mountain lion, which males are. Like males are called toms, right?
Mhm.
A male mountain lion and a male bobcat are called toms,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not true for the females. Did you know that?
No.
So a female bobcat, like you said, is called a queen, but technically a female mountain lion doesn't have a name.
So I've always called them queens.
Yeah, that's
so
what I thought too.
so I looked it up, and there was never such a thing as a queen mountain lion.
Huh.
Wow.
The slang that they might use is a molly, like molly.
Huh.
Yeah, like there's no. According to my research, there was no such thing as a queen mountain lion.
Interesting.
It's just a
Yeah.
molly or a she mountain lion.
very
Wow.
interesting.
Wow, that
Yeah.
is interesting.
But they're both toms on the male side.
Yes, that's why that threw me off a little bit.
All right, I got another one that you guys will probably nail right out of the park, and it also has to do with predator hunting. This is according to Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. What is the average span of days between a deer or elk kill for a cougar?
Is this a multiple choice?
No. I figured that would be too easy for him.
I know
7
that
days.
They say, yeah, they usually say like a week,
Yeah.
but
I'll say 6 days.
And it's a 3-day range that that Oregon department gives.
oh, so like,
Oh,
They
like
say
4 to 7 days or
exactly,
something like that.
yeah.
I'd say like 5 to 8.
Okay.
Yeah. that's probably what I'd say right in there.
Sure, I'll follow their.
ODFW says that a cougar kills an elk or a deer every 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
Mm.
However, anecdotally, talking to some people that I know, depending on ungulate population and area, that can vary a lot, especially if they have a plethora of choices of ungulates to pick from.
Right.
They'll get maybe a little bit more picky.
Like in that instance, to me, like a lion is going to go through a deer much faster than it is an
Right.
elk.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and two, we've seen this personally on our own property where, doing these cougar hunts and stuff, where like a cougar will kill a deer, and then we had this one instance where, it drug it like a third of a mile uphill, and then a pack of wolves took it.
No
So
way.
you start factoring in that. It's like, okay,
Wow.
well, if
How do you know the wolves took it?
because
We're
you could
tracking 'em.
follow
Oh,
it.
tracks.
Yeah, there was snow, and so
Because we were
we
hunting
caught
lion.
the track, and we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna start following this cat down, and it went, and the whole time we're following it, like, what is this thing doing?
Yeah.
And then it got way up on top of this mountain, and it got into a little thick patch, and you could see where a pack of wolves had came in there, and that deer, all that was left was hair.
Wow.
And I'm like, so
Yeah,
if this
it-
thing just killed, and then a pack of wolves came in and steals it, how many deer does that thing got to kill a week to keep going?
Yeah,
So-
no kidding.
Yeah.
Especially
that-
with the energy expended to move it.
Oh, I know.
And that one made no sense at all because it killed that deer in a creek bottom.
Yeah.
Like a thick creek bottom, which would have been perfect for it to stash that deer down there and eat on it. And it drug, uphill at least a third of a mile up towards the top of the ridge. And why it did that, I have no idea.
Was it like a white-tailed doe? Was
Yeah.
it a?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we assume.
What time of year was
literally,
this?
there was only hair.
I think this was right around.
January, probably.
I think it was in December.
Yeah.
When do they have their litter? You guys know?
I think they vary, right?
Yeah.
Because this is another crazy story that you should tell.
I think generally they say that like the cougar breeding season would be like in around January.
Oh, okay.
But I think they're one of those things that can breed really at any
Just
time
depends.
of the year. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Because last year my wife and I ran into a breeding pair in April, end of April, which was
I
interesting.
wonder if it was dragging to like put it closer to its kittens or something.
Well, and then at the same time, like, because so our family owns a little bit of property, like where we've grown up forever, and for whatever reason, it's become a mountain lion hotspot.
Yeah.
And over the years, just like in the wintertime, you go out and get some snow, find cougar track, and you follow them. Well, you build up enough experience doing that you find a lot of times these cougars are traveling through the same areas, like they're using the same roads or the same trails to travel on. And so that's where we set our game cameras. And another little trick I've started doing over the last couple of years is I'll take like some fishing line and a turkey feather and I'll hang it in a branch along these locations. And that feather will just flip and float in the air.
Yeah.
And any cat coming by, it doesn't matter if it's a
Curiosity.
bobcat or a house cat or a cougar, will
Really?
see that. And they're like, oh, what's that? And they got to go check it
Well, I
out.
mean, it makes so much sense, but that
does.
is so genius.
I would love to see a cat playing with
Wow.
the cougar.
Do you guys put your cameras on video?
Yeah.
We've got to
I've actually got video of cougars sitting there swiping at the
Oh,
feathers.
no way.
That's too cool. That's a little good segue into here. We're
That
gonna
was
talk.
a great segue.
Yeah, we're gonna talk some predator hunting. Before we do that, toot your own horns just a little bit and give us just a lowdown on your guys' predator hunting history. Because in Washington, for anybody that doesn't know, you can trap some seasons with some cats like bobcat, but you cannot use hounds with cougars, which is a big form of predator hunting with cougars in other states. That's a no-go in Washington. And so your options in Washington are spot and stock or call them in, or your basic hunting strategies like the rest of big game, which is not an easy feat with a cougar. So give us a little background.
Yeah, well, I would say most of at least on the lion side of things, we've actually been able to harvest several cats.
Well, you've
up
killed
to date.
4?
Yeah, I think I've got 4.
And I've killed 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
Our dad's killed.
Couple.
He got 1.
Yeah.
He
killed one a long
got
time
2 years ago when you could still use hounds. But I will say that the first handful of those were just by chance. Like, a couple of them were like right at our house.
Yeah.
Where like you're out doing something and you're like, oh crap, there's a cougar standing there. And it's cougar season.
Which is
got a
scary,
tag and all
you
that.
know? I mean,
Yeah.
especially now that we got kids and stuff.
This is why you always buy a cougar tag.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and, I shot a 130-pound tom here a couple of years ago, and we were at his house, and they let the dogs out. And as soon as the dogs went out the door, they were just, hackles up, barking. We're like, oh man, that's weird. And went out there, and sure enough, it was probably 80 yards off his front porch. Here's this 130-pound tom sitting on top of a deer.
Yeah, it killed a deer up there on the hill.
And so.
But that's kind of a scary situation because those lions are real protective over a kill.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
One of the dogs walks up there smells that deer, like, oh, what's going on? I'm sure that cougar probably hammered that dog.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I watched.
You've got to give him a rundown on your female that you shot. This is one of the craziest stories.
I'm excited for this.
Yeah,
Sit back, folks.
part of me
hates to tell the story.
Yeah,
but
it's not my favorite story, but had I known, I'd probably done things a little differently.
What year is this?
2017. Okay. Yeah, I just for those who don't know, I'm a forester, and I had been working in the job I have now for about a month, and part of my job is the slash piles that we create during our logging operations. I got to go around and map them and get dimensions to calculate tonnages and do all this through the DNR to get a permit to burn them in the wintertime. And this piece of property I was on mapping these piles out, and I was almost done. I was on one of the last piles, and these piles had actually been there for a couple years. And so I pull up in my pickup truck, get out, and I'm walking around the pile, kind of trying to get an estimate on size. And I had walked almost all the way around the pile, and I turned around and was coming back. And there was this cougar in the slash pile that I didn't know was there. And it had held its nerve long enough to let me walk by once. Well, when I turned around and came back by, it lost its nerve and it came darting out. Thankfully, it didn't just attack me right there.
Yeah.
But, missed my leg by inches. Just ran right by me. And needless to say, I almost needed a change of pants. And I took off running because my truck is 15 yards away, and I had my rifle in the truck, and
it's cougar season.
Yeah, this is in cougar season. I got a cougar tag and everything, so I take off running, and I get to the truck, and I reach in, and I'm grabbing my gun, but the whole time I'm thinking in my head it's long gone. It came out of it was hiding in the pile, and it took off, behind me, and it ran down over the hill. It's long gone, and I turn around. And this cougar is at 15 yards coming towards me. As soon as I make eye contact with it, it snarls its teeth and starts hissing at me. And I've had lots of run-ins with lions over the years, but I've never had one like that.
Aggressive.
Yeah, and I just thought, nope, not today, and raised my rifle and one shot and down. And I thought, man, that was pretty wild. And I ended up getting up there. Well, what happened is she had 4 kittens stashed in that slash pile. She had kind of made a den in there.
And they're like this big.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
they're
were-
like kittens.
Yeah. And yeah, she had them stashed in there, and that's why she was acting aggressive.
You could walk up and see she'd been nursing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so that explained right there why she was acting aggressive. And like I said, had I known that, things
Yeah.
would have went completely different.
But I mean, in the moment, how are you supposed to know
Oh,
that?
yeah.
It's like
Right.
a cougar
And
just
then-
ran next to me.
like I said, like especially knowing that now, like I just am so thankful that like she didn't just nail me right when she came
Yeah.
out of there. But
Because you were probably walking very close to the border of that slash pile.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah,
How
within
big-
feet.
How big was that pile in particular?
The slash pile,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's a big pile. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, 14, 15 feet tall and,
Oh, it was
you
giant.
know, like
Yeah.
70 feet long. It's a big
Oh,
pile.
wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And that was
but
your
yeah.
that was your first cat?
No, that was
Your second,
I
right?
think my second cat.
Yeah.
What came of the kittens?
So we called it in, and a biologist with the game department, really nice gal, she came out and ended up taking them. And I believe they're actually
He had to
in-
climb into the slash pile,
To go grab them?
grab them.
Yeah, well, she
hand 'em
did.
to her.
Actually, she
Or
did,
she
but I
did, yeah.
climbed in behind her, and she would hand them to me, and then they had like a dog crate, and we would grab them and put them in the dog crate.
What they do with them? Take them to like a rehabilitation center or something?
So I guess it's really hard to rehab cats,
Oh.
at least to like, you know, for the purpose of eventually putting
Releasing.
them back in the wild. So I believe those 4
Two
cats
went to
are
New Jersey and 2 went to Ohio to zoos.
Zoos.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right on. Because aren't there laws regarding you're not allowed to shoot kittens and
Right.
stuff like that?
Oh,
yeah. Well, and actually, yes, yeah. I mean, you're not supposed to shoot spotted kittens or anything like
Yep.
that. And then it was kind of, I think they just changed that actually, where now it is a rule like you're not allowed to shoot
Females with
a
kittens.
female with kittens, whereas before it was kind of advised like not to.
Like
Yeah.
bears.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
But,
recommended.
Exactly.
It wouldn't have mattered in that scenario anyway. Just
Yeah, I mean,
because.
at that point, it was more you shot it out of self-defense than actually like, oh, I'm gonna
Right.
shoot this cougar for
Yeah.
the sake of shooting it.
And it's funny is just because after that experience, I've seen, over the years, I've seen a couple of videos online on different social media things where, you know, it might be like a jogger out for a jog in California or something, and a lion is chasing them and just making these horrible noises, and it'll kind of like false bluff charge him, you know, and that's my first thought was, I bet that cougar's got kittens.
I mean, even this year, like, there's been a couple of cougar attacks.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's all over
Well, it's
social.
becoming more common. I mean, that, 9-year-old down in Fruitland here a couple of years ago. I mean, it's, we've always talked about, like, I don't want to say a mismanagement, but, you got rid of hounds, and, we're going on, 30 years now of no hounds.
Yep.
And so you've got all these cats, kind of like this one, that have ultimate domain of the mountains. And so you got all these young ones that are being born that, I mean, the only place that they can go is get pushed down in the valleys where you got kids and dogs, and they're young and they don't know any better and they're hungry. And so it's just a unfortunate combination of a lot of things. But
it cracks me up because I've talked to so many like wardens and biologists with the game department. And they'll all say, "Oh, there isn't any more cougars today than there was 30 years ago when we could hound hunt." And I'm like, okay, well, I've lived in this area for over 30 years, and we didn't
no,
like. It used to be, if somebody saw a cougar, like people almost thought you were lying.
yeah.
You know, like yeah,
Like the
right.
ghosts.
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
It's kind of like elk back in the day, you know?
And now, it's just like almost a common thing. Like it's
There
not
was
even
a-
surprising when you see one anymore.
I don't remember what year of span this would have been, but it probably would have been around that area. But we saw 30 cats in 3 years.
You're kidding me.
And we
And
killed,
that's actually seen them. With
and
our
I think
eyes.
we killed 4 of them, 3 of them. Dad
I
killed one,
don't
I killed
remember.
one, you killed one. I think. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's
And
a lot of cats.
That's in person. That's not 30 different trail cam cats.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
that's
no,
with our own
seeing 'em
eyes.
with our eyes. And some of those might have been the same cat, but
Right.
yeah, I know. Like a couple years ago, well, it's been more than a couple years ago. It's been a handful of years ago, but it was right around 4th of July. and we were just sitting at home one day and looked out. We noticed the deer out we got a field out there it's actually my parents' house, but the deer took off running. We looked out there, and here's just this young cougar kind of running through the wide open field by the house, and it was just trying to catch a deer, but we're like, okay, whatever. It was in July, so it wasn't cougar season, and there's probably a lot of people out there that would have just shot it and not said anything, but we like to try to follow the laws, but it didn't matter because that cougar that night ended up going down to the highway about a mile south of the house and got hit by a car. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's wild.
That actually about once a year in our area there. About once a year, there's a cat
Somebody
that gets
hits
hit
a
by
cat.
a car. Yep.
And within like a couple mile stretch of our house.
It's like a crossing point.
Yeah.
Wow, that
Yeah,
is
and
crazy.
it is a crossing point, and they're, they've been doing that study with the Kalispel tribe.
Yeah.
And
Is this the desensitization study that you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
And they had done. He's gone with them a handful of times when they put collars and stuff on cats, but here was that this like winter of 22 to 23 when those 6 were together, or not together, but
Winter of 23.
yeah. So they, my parents,
I think it was after I had
our
shot
place
this one.
and my parents' place is like 500 yards apart, and there had been a cat in there that had killed a deer, and so he was working with that, or just helping out at that time with that study a little bit, and so he called the predator management guy in Colville, and they came out and ran it, collared it, and then we had went and put some cameras on that kill, and we're 500 yards apart in our houses, and then there's a little draw, and that deer was right in the bottom of that, and in one night we had 6 different cougars. One had an ear tag, one had a collar, one was a female with a kitten, one was a lone female, and then one was a big tom.
The female had
Two
two
kittens.
young ones,
Yeah.
and these weren't like small young ones. They
Yeah.
were like decent size.
like
but-
adolescent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she had an ear tag. That
Yep.
female did, so you could tell her apart. And then there was the female that they had just collared. And then there was another smaller cat that I'm assuming was another female that didn't have the ear tag or a collar. And then a giant tom.
Like
giant tom.
that big tom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they shared one deer?
Yes.
Yep. And they would cycle. And so there was one point where, and this video is actually up on our YouTube page. It's really cool because at one point, these 2 females, one's already on the deer, and this other one's coming in, and the vocalizations that they have, and like growling at each other, and then they both have ends of the deer, and they're ripping it back and forth and stuff, and all the audio's on there and everything. It's a really cool video.
That's what surprised me though, is because you wouldn't think they're pretty. They're normally they want to be by themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, this female's eating on the deer, and this other one comes in, and at first, for like the first few minutes, they are making just some horrible sounds, playing tug of war with this deer. But after a couple minutes, they calmed down, and the 2 of them
Started
just
eating.
sat there and ate together.
They settled their differences
Yeah.
right there on the spot.
Yeah.
yeah, and
Foods
it's
can do
probably
that.
over.
And so talking about the 7 to 10 days,
Yeah.
cougars killing
Right.
a deer,
Right.
that deer was pretty much gone in one night.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, and then that same night, our neighbors that live kind of to the east of us, they give us permission to run cameras and stuff, and especially for predators. And that same night, we had those 6 cougars down in that draw right over top of the ridge. Was it 11 wolves?
I don't think it was 11, but there was quite a few of them.
Yeah, there was a handful at the same time. And I'm like, you've got, 15 to, 20 predators right here.
What a terrible place to be a deer.
Exactly.
So that
Yeah,
was
that's
my
for sure.
question. So over the years, you've spent 30 plus years there, and you've seen this increase in predator populations. What have you seen over the last 30 years of ungulate populations or deer?
Way down.
Yeah.
Way down.
Really?
Yes.
Last year was probably
So like
one of the better years that
we'll
I've seen.
take our parents' place there where we grew up. They've got about a 20-acre alfalfa field that surrounds their house. And it was nothing growing up for there to be, in the summertime, in the evenings, right before dark, 75 plus whitetails out there. And some nice bucks.
Oh, yeah.
There used to be some nice bucks. And now,
If you get
I would
30,
think No, not even that. I would guess like half of that.
Yeah,
In the wintertime,
depends.
up until this year, because you can't do that anymore, but forever now, I've always fed the deer in the winter, and we will get some more in, attracting them from neighboring properties. And I mainly just do that for sheds. But yeah, I would say anymore, like, yeah, you're lucky this time of year before night if there's like 15, 20 deer out there.
Wow.
And
But the biggest difference
very
has
few
been-
bucks.
Yeah, that's been the biggest difference. Is like when we were kids, we had some bucks out there that were just, unbelievable. And it's not like we went and shot them. I mean, they just have disappeared. And it's probably been like 10 years since we've seen an actually like good,
Yeah.
really solid buck.
And that's
out
the
there.
other thing I was going to say is like people probably listen to this and be like, well, yeah, like
You guys killed them all.
you guys shot them all.
Yeah.
But no, like we actually don't even hunt
No.
our family's property there.
Well, let's take you with a caveat. Their definition of a good buck's like a 160.
Oh, I wish.
Ours is like a 120.
Which means
I was
10
gonna say,
years
whoa,
ago
like
when there was a lot of
150
good bucks, there was some smasher bucks out there.
yeah. And actually, I can probably say this because that's been long enough ago and they're pretty much non-existent now. But with all the scouting and cameras and hunting that I do to this day, the biggest buck I've ever seen in my life was in that field.
Really?
That was a long time ago.
King
Yeah,
Kong.
probably-
That was his
That's-
name.
King Kong?
Yeah.
That's a good name.
Well,
He-
what was he?
First year, he had 18 points.
Yeah.
He was huge.
And
But
he was
So,
his
so he
times
popped out
were-
of nowhere?
just showed up one day.
Oh.
And maybe, well, no, because
we had never seen him leading
Yeah.
up to that point, but we went out. The first summer we saw him, and that was the thing. So he would come in all summer long and feed in the field, and then about late August just disappear.
never seen him again.
Typical.
And you
Till
wouldn't
next
see him
year.
till the next summer.
And he had a line in between his eyes, and obviously bases like this big around.
Yeah.
So,
So
when
you
he
said
would
he
show
has
up,
18 points. So was he just like completely gnarly, or was he like a mainframe with just a bunch of kickers?
mainframe with
Yeah.
a bunch of extras. Like I think he had 7 eye guards.
Yeah,
Like 4 on one
Yeah.
side, 4 on one side, 3 on the other, and then he was probably like a mainframe 4 or 5 point with a bunch of extra points.
Kickers?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I
and he
guess-
was probably his first year that we saw him because we watched him 4 years,
yeah, 4 summers.
and the first year we saw him, he was probably low 20s wide, I'd say.
yeah,
or right
I
around
would say mid 20s.
mid 20s. And then, you got to watch him as he regressed, getting older. But basically, every year he would just gain more width and lose points. And so by his last year, and if we could go back with the cameras and stuff we have now, like we have no good videos, no good pictures.
There's one video that we have that's on like a super old camcorder that's like super blurry because it was
Yeah.
right before dark too. But he lifts his head. I think I whistled at him and he lifts his head and all you can really see is frame. But it's like holy smokes. That's
His last year, he was basically just a mainframe 4-point. But his tines were like this tall. I mean, he wasn't.
They're very short.
Yeah,
very
very
short.
short, but he had to have
That's
been
the only thing he
30
lacked.
inches wide, white tail.
Whitetail.
definitely upper 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if he didn't hit 30, I'd kind of be shocked.
Folks, when these guys are glazing over a deer, you know it's a big deer.
Yeah.
And we never found his shed, never found his dead
I mean,
head,
I would-
nothing.
I would guess at his biggest, which was the first summer that he was probably 190 inch.
Oh
buck.
yeah.
So you
My
guys,
goodness.
you guys just think he died of natural
Yeah.
old age?
Yeah,
If
and
somebody
he was
killed
one of
him,
those
I
ones.
think we'd know.
Yeah.
He was one of those ones. If somebody had shot him, you would have heard
He
about
broke the world record news.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
it. Yeah, the Northeast Washington
And
News.
what's Stevens County. But yeah, what's funny is he, his last year, if somebody would have killed him, he wouldn't have been really that spectacular of a buck, other than he was just probably the whitest whitetail that's walked
And
in the
massive.
last.
So
yeah,
he
super
he
massive.
slowly regressed to becoming a normal deer.
Yeah. I mean, he looked like a deer version of a Texas Longhorn. I mean, he just stuck out and barely came forward at all. I mean, his main beams were just almost straight.
How long ago was this? What was the last year you guys saw him? Like this is a long time ago?
20 years ago.
Yeah,
Oh.
almost probably 20 years.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah.
And we've seen, we've had a couple good bucks since then. But honestly, I mean, there's not a buck in the last 10 years that I'd pull the trigger on.
No. And this is where it's really evident to me is like I was saying, I feed the deer in the wintertime. This last winter, we had probably, like I said, in the wintertime, you can get a few more coming in off the other properties, but I would guess on average there was probably about 25 deer a day coming in and feeding. And out of those,
And this is like third cutting alfalfa. Like
yeah, it's nice.
they're
hay,
feasting, and there's just not that many deer.
but out of those deer, there was a spike.
Yeah.
That was the only buck. Wow. And then I think out of the rest that were all does, there were, I think maybe 2 fawns. 2 fawns.
Oh.
So that shows you right there that recruitment is super low.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's, like I said, we have not hunted on our parents' property there for.
So this is just an observational standpoint,
Yes.
kind of sitting back and watching an area change over the years.
Yeah.
So
and we got some neighbors that shoot stuff, but
Yeah.
It's-
young kids.
yeah.
Young kids that.
yeah, ones that you want to, be successful starting out. But as far as us go,
That's
we're
not
like,
making the difference, though.
Oh no, yeah,
No.
they're just not there
no.
between blue tongue and predators.
So you guys have shot 6, 7 cougars over the years, and neither of you guys. This is all post hound hunting in Washington. So what? I mean, you can tell the story of this big one that you shot, but what's the spread of the style of hunting?
So the last couple of years, we've really got into the calling. There's a guy, I'm sorry if he's listening to this, I apologize, but I can't remember his name, but he's got a company, I believe it's called like Rain Shadow Calls. I believe he's actually from like the west side of Washington, but he produces these sounds that he's getting from live cougars, I believe at like a rehabilitation center, and you can buy them to put on your e-collar, and it's just different lion vocalizations, and
Of cougars, not
Yes.
of
Yep.
not of prey.
yeah, no,
Yep.
yeah, cougars, mountain lions. So the problem I've seen, and we have called in and shot a couple cats, just using the prey sounds. And actually, now that I think of it, I think we've only killed one using the actual lion vocals, but
we've only
we're
had
still
them for-
early on
Yeah.
in this process, like kind of transitioning into this, and I can just see kind of where it's going, and I think there's a lot of success to be had in the future because, well, we can get into that, but the one Colton killed winter before last was I wish really bad we'd had that
Yeah.
on video, but we have called them in using the prey distress sounds. Cats really like those high pitched
Woodpecker.
sounds. Yeah, woodpecker
Yeah.
screams, rabbit screams, that type of stuff. We've killed a couple doing that. But yeah, the lion vocalization. So like there's actually many different types of vocals, but you got like whistles and there's lion and
Chirps
heat,
and
which we don't
there's-
really use that one, but
Yeah.
all sorts of chirps and whistles, and then he's even got sounds where like the cougars are like eating on food, so you can hear like the bone crunching, which I would think like in that scenario you'd have to have a cougar really close, but
There's some stuff that you hear on there though, and you just like think back, like, oh, I've definitely heard this in the woods before. Like,
Yeah.
it's good to know what this
most
sounds
of it,
like.
most of it's like I think a normal person would think it's like a bird
Yeah.
chirping.
Well,
out
like
in the
their
woods.
whistle, and that's this last cougar I shot 2 years ago. It was whistling coming back into us. And
Yeah, and that's what was so neat about that.
yeah, it would have been one of the coolest videos we've had for as far as predators go. But yeah, it was whistling, and within probably 5 seconds, you could see it coming down the road. And shit, yeah, it was super cool. But
So you guys have a collection of these sounds on an e-collar, and is this the guy that sells these sounds? Is there like a guide of like these are what these different sounds are making? This is how to use these, or are you guys just got this bucket of sounds and you're kind of, I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of both, but kind of going through and figuring out what behavior you use these sounds with and how to use those.
So he makes it's like a recording that you can purchase when you're buying the sounds, where he goes through all the sounds and like kind of says what he believes they are and what instances to use them on. For us, I would say primarily like the cougar whistles are kind of like your go-to. Like you could probably use those in any scenario.
What do you think the whistling means?
I think it's just a communication. Like they're kind of you're like, oh hey, I'm here, type of thing. And
You would correlate that to like a locating bugle in a way?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Or like a cow mew?
Yep.
Okay.
So this is really interesting because I think of cougars as pretty solitary animals.
Mhm.
And so you think when they're coming in passing, obviously you're using this as a tactic to call them in with hunting. They're coming and kind of touching base with each other out there and then going and doing their thing.
Yeah, and I think too, like they might hear that and say, I don't recognize that sound, and so they want to come see who it is.
Interesting.
Do you think that these cats have an idea of what other cats are around the area?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
they know who's here?
Yeah, I think females generally have a smaller range than the males. The males have a much larger range, but they're pretty good at wanting to. Generally, obviously, there's times that break that rule, like we talked about with all the ones on the camera in one night. But generally, I mean, they've kind of got their own territories set up, and they like to stick to those because.
And so if somebody's like you guys are in their space whistling, they're like,
Yeah.
what was this doing?
Well, and they got like scratching posts, trees and stuff that they're checking in on, and they got their like right above where our house is. I mean, it's just a couple hundred yards. There's this little ledge that, like, that's a cougar corridor. I mean, they just make their way through there, and it seems like, I'm not gonna say every cougar that's in the area goes that direction, but that's like a main trail where I think they can kind of check in and check scents and see who's in the area.
So you killed the cougar using these sounds?
Yeah. That was my introduction to it. I'd never heard him before. He was like, yeah, look at these things. Like 10 minutes later, this cougar comes running down the road. I was like, holy cow.
So you kind of just answered my question, but do you feel like their behavior coming into those sounds is different than their behavior coming into predator calling?
Yes, far different. And that's where I was kind of going, talking about the prey distress sounds. It's like I said, we've killed a couple doing that, but in our area especially, you've got so many other predators, wolves and bears and everything else, that to me, any predator coming into a prey distress sound is going to be pretty leery.
Yeah.
On like,
Very
hey,
cautious.
I hear something dying, but what's killing that?
We've had a handful of times where, like, yeah, and, a cougar set, it's not uncommon to sit there for 40 minutes and, like,
Well, longer than that.
yeah.
An hour and a half.
I mean, because they come in so slowly and are so sneaky that there's been a handful of times like we sit there and usually you're in like 2 feet of snow and freezing. You're like, all right, let's get up, and you stand up and a cougar takes off running. You're like, gosh, dang it! That's
We've had a couple times where you call and you snuck into an area and you set up and you call for quite a while and you don't see nothing. And you get up and pack up your stuff and you're heading back. And as you're walking back, you can see where a lion came in and is walking in your boot tracks where you walked in and came in behind you. And then I'm sure probably saw you or smelled you
or
and
something.
took
So you
off,
just
but-
think that because using a actual cougar sound is a more direct call to a cougar, and in that way, they're not coming in sneaky because they're not trying to kill something. They're just like, oh, I'm just gonna walk over here, and obviously they're more comfortable with making their presence known because they're quite literally trying to say hi to another cat.
Well, and that's kind of what we correlate it to with like elk hunting is when we were really studying and listening to podcasts and stuff with that elk nut guy, he says in there, like, if you use elk sounds the way that they should be used, very few times will elk actually like try to circle you and come in downwind because that you are responding the way elk should respond. And so that's how I kind of correlate it is like, if you make them think like this is the right scenario, this is the right sounds, everything checks out, they're not as cautious to come in and check you out. And
like, so the one that Colton got actually using the vocals, we had cameras set up on the property and we got a picture of this cougar walking by broad daylight, and it's just out from the house. It's not
like
very
300
far.
yards from my house.
And we're like, oh crap, cougar just walked by. So we grab Colton. I'd already shot mine, so Colton got his gun, and I grabbed the call, and we ran out there. And it's so thick along that old logging road that there's really nowhere to set up, but like in the road. And so we set up and called, and that's the other thing. Like when it comes to calling for lines, is knowing that there's one close by versus calling and not like
Blind-
cold calling.
Yeah, blind calling.
Well, obviously, like it makes sense, but if you know there's one close by that's going to hear your calling, like I think your chances for a call in are so much, like they're very great,
Yeah.
especially with the line. Cause I
Like
think
over 70%.
overall they're just really curious too. So
Yeah. But seeing them's a different story. They're
yeah,
super sneaky.
yeah. But yeah, so we set up, and I believe we started off with a like a woodpecker distress. Did that for just like 30 seconds, turned it off, waited another 30 seconds, and then started into the cougar whistles. And that didn't go on very long. And yeah, we actually heard the cougar whistling back to us. And just shortly after that, 10 seconds after.
When they whistle, is it pretty loud, or do you have to be
No,
within
it's-
a pretty close proximity?
Yeah. If you didn't know, like, if it wouldn't have been playing on the call, like, a second before the cougar started doing it, I don't even know if you would pay attention to it. Because
Really?
it really just sounds like a bird.
If
yeah,
you were
I mean,
more
this
than
cougar
200 or
was like,
300 yards away,
Yeah.
it's probably something you might not hear.
well, when this cougar was whistling back to us, we were already alert because we knew it was right there somewhere. But, I mean, it was probably only, I don't know, 150 yards from us.
I turn the call up as loud as it'll go when it's doing the whistle. So it's loud. So that sounds traveling. And somebody might think like, well, like, isn't a cougar going to say like, well, that's way louder than we call. Like, that sounds weird. But they don't think that way. But yeah, that cat ran right down the old logging road. And that was a young cat.
Yeah.
Um,
He probably wanted some friends.
but yeah, ran right down the road right to us.
So you guys got pretty close before you guys set up.
Oh, yeah.
What made you guys decide like, oh, let's stop here and call?
We stopped right where the camera was because because that was the best sitting spot.
Yeah,
because
I was gonna
there's
say,
a
it's about the
Y
one.
in the road and it's all brush in between that Y, and so we just sat up right on that Y, and it's so thick going up there.
That was my greatest concern in that whole setup was if the cat didn't come down the road, the old logging road,
you'd never see it.
you would have never ever seen it
'Cause
because
this
the
is like-
brush off the
there-
sides was so thick.
Is there no snow?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay.
Yeah.
And this was in February,
Yep.
This is like
This
dry
was
ground.
like
Yeah.
this type of year almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it was that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just we didn't hardly have any snow down low. And
wow. So when you guys first called, like he pretty much immediately whistled back.
Yeah, it after we started the cougar whistles, it was probably, I don't know,
Well, I think
20 seconds or something.
I remember I was laying in bed and because this was like first thing in the morning, and I was sitting there and my daughter was laying next to me and we were talking and stuff, and it was on a cell camera and it beeped, and I like picked up my phone and saw the cougar and I was like, oh man, and then right then it was like Clayton's calling, and I picked it up and he was like, you see that cat? And I was like, yeah, and he was at my parents, and so I think from the time we got the photo to when we were set up at the intersection was 13 minutes.
Oh wow.
And so,
Wow.
yeah.
I mean, that alone has to
Yeah.
put your
And that's-
chances just so much higher.
And
Yeah.
that's how you have to hunt them. I mean, they're such good predators and such keen animals. I mean, you basically have to have an upper hand on them unless you just get lucky.
Yeah.
But that's why their population's grown the way it has. So
You did a couple of like woodpecker type prey sounds.
Yep.
I'm guessing that was planned. That wasn't like, oh, let's actually try the cougar sounds after you just
Yeah.
started.
So I wanted to do the distress and then followed up by the cougar sound so that the cougar would hear that and then go, oh, there's another cougar down there.
Yeah, so it kind of could locate what type of predator was maybe
Yep.
causing that. Okay, so you killed a couple calling.
Yep. And just a couple weeks, I believe it was, before that one,
Yep.
I had actually shot a female, called it in using the woodpecker distress, and that was a total just blind calling sequence. I got home from work. I ran up on the property right above my grandpa's house, and set up and called.
it's basically right across the valley from where I just shot this one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's just a lot of cats.
And they are like, people don't realize it. They are so sneaky. Like
Yeah.
they can come in and be right on top of you and you have no idea.
Yep.
But I set up. I went up. I set up. I put the call. There was kind of a thick row of brush right in front of me, maybe 30 yards, and I stuck the call in there, so the call was hidden. And that's the other thing.
Yeah, I
I
was
generally
gonna say, talk
don't
about
use
that.
a decoy.
We'll talk
I'll
about
just use the sound.
your call placement.
Yeah.
Talk about that. About like where you put your call, where they can't see it.
Yeah. So they have to come in and find it to see where the sound is coming from. So that you don't.
Because if they can see something, they'll just sit back and watch it, and they won't actually.
Which isn't always the case because we have
Yeah.
called them in, like using a decoy too. But
yeah, you want them to commit.
Yeah.
It's basically like a turkey, right? Like you don't want them to see the decoy too far away where they hang up.
because like I said, we have had them when we've been using the decoys where they come in, they commit, and they come in. But I can think of one years ago that I made a mistake. I was trying to hunt coyotes, and I was actually just using a 22. And
A 22 long rifle.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was in the time of my life where I thought I was gonna kill coyotes and
skin them for a living.
yeah, make a bunch of money selling coyote pelts,
Nice.
which never happened. But anyway, I called a cougar in, and actually the only reason I ever knew that cougar was there is because there was a white-tailed doe standing on the hillside, and I had the rabbit scream going, and I had this little decoy that flips around, and she was standing up there staring at the call, and pretty soon, after about 5 minutes of calling, she started staring up the hill away from me. And pretty soon her tail's coming up and she starts stomping and then takes off blowing. And I'm like, well, something's obviously coming in. But I kept looking, and I could not see anything. And finally, I saw just the slightest movement. And this lion had snuck down in the brush, and he's just sitting. He was probably, I don't know, he's probably 80, 90 yards from me. But he's just sitting in the brush, and all I could see was like his face staring out of the brush, and he's just sitting there looking at my decoy spinning around.
That visualization in my head is so eerie.
Yeah.
Dude, scary.
But if that doe had never been there, chances are I'd never even known that cougar was there. Wow. But that cat would never come in any closer. It just sat there the whole time. And then I think it got to the point where, and of course I couldn't shoot it legally because I didn't have a centerfire rifle. Like even if I was like, I'm going to shoot it, I think a little 22.
Yeah, you're
just
not
hits
killing
off.
it.
How did Clayton get mauled?
Yeah. But I eventually just kind of slank back in the brush and disappeared. And
Was it a
I'm not
big
sure.
cat?
It looked like a pretty nice one, yeah.
Wow.
But like who knows how many times you go out calling
Just don't know.
Yeah.
and they do that.
I mean, even when you're not even targeting cats, I mean, when you're just out there walking around, I'm sure like you're within yards of cougars before.
Well, just
far more often than you probably want to know.
Yes.
Well, and the amount of people, I feel like it's increased over like the last 10 years, but just the amount of people are like, yeah, I was out hunting and I turned around and shot this cat at like 20 feet behind me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
which I'm sure it happened back in the day, but you just hear about it so much.
I mean,
That's exactly what happened to my
dad.
dad last year.
yeah.
Yeah, my uncle too, man.
One
it's
of our
common.
friends in Colville, he was elk hunting and called, I think they were cow calling, and called a cougar into him, and he shot it with his pistol. I'm just like, man, that's kind of scary.
That's unbelievable.
Which at least they're seeing them and they're not latched on the back of their neck. But
Yeah.
So trail cams have played a significant role in your guys' cougar hunting to get in the proximity.
Yeah.
well, and
quickly.
finish what you were talking about, setting that call 30 yards in front of you in that thick.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about how sneaky they are.
Yeah. So like there was kind of an open hillside and then just this little brush row right in front of me about 30 yards, and I just stuck the call in the brush. And I was doing the woodpecker scream, and I wasn't calling, I bet 30 seconds, and I'm watching for movement or anything. Hadn't seen anything, and all of a sudden in the brush, right where my call is, the brush kind of moved, and you could hear it, but it was kind of like one of the brush or the bushes kind of whipped back and forth. I almost saw, how like sometimes like a bush or like a tree limb will get kind of
Matted down.
Caught under the snow.
and then it'll get the right pressure where it'll like pop up.
Yep.
That's what I thought it was. And then all of a sudden I saw like this patch of brown moving, and I was like, what the heck? And I actually, at first I thought it was a bobcat. And I picked my rifle up and I looked through the scope, and this cougar is standing over the top of my call, like looking at it, like, what is this thing? And it actually like batted the call around. And I ended up, long story short, I ended up shooting the cat, and it was a nice female. But to this day, I have no idea where it even came from.
And you were like dead staring
yes,
that direction the whole time.
yeah.
And you could have seen everywhere around it if there was any cougar that was coming.
Yeah, and like I said, where the call was this pretty dense patch of brush, but everything around it was fairly open. And so how it got there, I have no idea.
Well,
Wow.
and almost in that same spot, this has probably been 5 years ago, we got set up there, and my brother-in-law was with us, and we kind of got set up in like 3 different spots where he was looking uphill, my brother-in-law was looking south, and I was looking down on this big flat. And I mean, we hit that call, and it couldn't have been 10 seconds, and I'm sitting there looking down, and there's kind of this little open ridge off to my left, and I look over, and this cat is just like full blood run across this, going towards the call, right where my brother-in-law is sitting. And I wasn't sure if he had even seen it, because, I mean, literally it was like 10 seconds. And so I turned, and I had a 223, and I'm like just putting the crosshairs on it, and I think he had, I don't know, some rifle, and he started shooting, and we started shooting, and none of us hit the cat. I think he ended up sighting his rifle in like a week later. It was like a foot high at like 50 yards.
Oh,
I'm like, oh man.
That's a hurt me.
Yeah, but it wasn't even 30 seconds, and that thing would have been on top of us.
I mean, despite that, it clearly you guys have been in a lot of cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like we try to tell people this, and they might think we're over exaggerating or something, but to me, it just blows me away how many of them there are. It is easier for me to go out after a fresh snow and find a cougar track than it is like a bobcat or anything else.
You never see bobcats.
Yeah.
Well, and the first cougar I ever killed, we used to call a lot too, but we used to take a snowmobile around and, find fresh tracks, and then we'd just get out and follow them. And we've long gotten off that tactic, but we were tracking.
It's a good way to get some exercise.
It is. It's a great way. But and apparently we need to go back to it because I might need it. But we were going on the snowmobile and cut these fresh tracks, and it was 3 cougars walking together down the road, and we got off, and I don't even know. We'd been following them for a long time, and I think we were giving ourselves more credit than we probably deserved, but like pretty soon you could tell the cougars like were picking up pace, and we're like, oh man, we're right on these things. And then pretty soon they're on like a full blood run. And so we're kind of like moving quick, going through this thick brush and stuff, and they had killed a deer. And so it was probably hours before we were there, and we thought we were right on their tail. And so we found this deer, and they had virtually like killed it and not even touched it. There wasn't like a bite mark out of it. And, we were just not very far from our house. So we went back down and packed a tree stand back in there, drug that deer out, and just sat there. And like right at dark, this cougar comes out to grab this deer and pull it back into the timber, and I shot it. And so that was the first one I killed. So we've done some different tactics, but calling's probably been the...
Yeah, it sounds like every
best.
time you guys tell a story you guys have killed a cat, it's like it's a completely different tactic.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about, because like he was saying, we've tried tracking them, and we've done it before where we know, like I remember one time a neighbor called and said, hey, we just saw a cougar run across the road. And so I went out there, and if I remember right, I don't even know if it was hunting season. I was just going to follow the tracks. And I could tell by the tracks it wasn't a real big cat. And I followed him up to the top of the ridge, and he was just kind of going in a straight line. And then pretty soon you can see where now he's starting to kind of wander around. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm getting closer. Well, then pretty soon you'd see where he was kind of leaping away. I'm like, okay, he's running. So then I'd pick up the pace. Well, and I've ended up doing this a couple times since then, and this has happened every time. But they will start to circle.
Yeah.
And so the next thing you know, you'll make a big loop, and now you're walking in your boot tracks from where you just walked, and you can look in those and see the cougar tracks in your boot tracks.
You guys are tracking each other.
Yeah.
And they'll just continue to do that. So it's like an endless cycle. And that's why we don't really do that anymore. Is because it's like, man, like
And
unless you had two people.
How big are these loops though? Like distance wise?
They're, I mean, not big.
Once they make the loop's not that big.
No, like
But-
a couple hundred yards.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but then they'll
But it's generally there's generally
them out.
dense trees and brush.
Yeah.
And so they can hide pretty well. But if you, in theory, if you had two people and you got to that point, you could probably sit someone down
right
and then continue
them
to
around.
do that.
ambush it.
Yeah, but
Do you think they do that because they know, or do they just do that because that's what they do?
no, I think it's both. Like I think they know you're following them, but they're just like that, like where they're trying to stay hidden, you know. And
Trying to-
maybe they don't know that you're following them, so they're just trying to like circle around.
And let you go past?
Yeah.
Oh, smart critters.
Yeah. Oh, they're very smart.
Regardless of what the reasoning is, that's a very intelligent animal to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and they're, you know, what always cracks us up is like you'll sit somewhere and then call, and then you'll come back like that night and call in the same place, and like where you're sitting, cougars have walked through in that meantime that you've been gone. It's like, you know, were they just sitting up there waiting for us to leave, and then as soon as we leave, they come check it out? I don't know. They're fun to hunt, but they're definitely tough.
They're one of my favorite animals. I think they're just so cool, but I do think there's definitely an overabundance of them in our area. And
I mean, without a doubt. I mean, I get trail cam photos of cats pretty much every year, like a lot of them too. So I'm with you there. I mean, I don't really lay eyes on them because I don't really actively try to look for a cat, but I think that's just because I don't look for them.
Yeah.
Because I know for a fact there's been cats around me and I just had no idea. Because I've only personally laid eyes on one cat in my whole life. Like seeing them when hunting, that's the one time. The other time where I knew there was a cat, my cousin or my buddies I were hunting with, they saw the cat jump in front of us and they're like, "There's a cat." I looked, I never saw him.
Oh, yeah.
And he's in the middle of a clear cut.
Right.
And I'm like, there's no way I'd missed this cat. But they're like, "Oh yeah, he ran away." I'm like, I don't even know. Like how often does that happen that you just like don't even know?
And I honestly think, you know, I don't know what it is about right where we grew up, but I mean, there's far more cats now. But like growing up, I mean, we'd come home from school and like we had a cougar in our chicken coop one day. And like one time my sister and I were out playing tag in the yard and gunshots are going off and you run out there and yeah, there's a cougar sitting on the edge of the field watching you. Like, I mean, it was like once a year at least you were running into cougars even when we were growing up. And then now it's just
going up.
kind of taking off. Yeah.
Wow. So every year, it sounds like you guys make an actual effort to cougar hunt.
Oh yeah,
Not 2024.
Yeah.
Season was closed in October.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
still chasing big animals, but
yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't really get the chance to
no.
do much because of the regulation changes this last winter. But
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, then yes, you guys.
Yeah.
I would call you guys legitimate, like actual mountain lion hunters. I would not classify me as
pretty
a
so
mountain
I
lion
think 2 winters ago when we each killed one, I believe when I shot mine, I calculated up. I think it was like 23 days that I had actually spent out calling and hunting for lions.
hunter. Wow, that's a lot of time.
Yeah. And I got the time, but you know, like it was one of those things where like a lot of times just after work in the evenings, I'd get home and I'd run up on the hill and just call or something. But, you know, I figure you do that enough, you're eventually bound to call something in. So
So nowadays, if you were to do it again, it's just like, I'm just going to call. You've already gone through the whole gauntlet of tracking and just normal spawn stock.
I think like we were saying earlier, the biggest saying to the calling now is knowing that there's a lion in the area that's going to hear you.
So according to what you guys told, the ways to know that is either through a trail cam photo or a kill site.
Yep.
Kill site
Or you
tracks.
seen them. Or tracks.
So like we'll spend a lot of time doing that in the winter. Like we get a fresh snow, we'll go drive around and look for tracks.
So how do you would only track when there's fresh snow?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to know it's a fresh track.
Okay. That's what I figured. I was like, yeah, there's some old tracks that you might be tracking for a week before
And
you
like,
catch up.
I mean, we'll go all over and hunt.
Yeah.
But I do spend a lot of time on our property around our house just because like those are kind of some more of the ones I want to shoot to help our deer. But our neighbors own a pretty big chunk of land and they'll let us go up there too. And so I remember like one day I went up there and it had snowed that morning, but I wasn't able to make it up there till the evening, and got up there and I found a fresh deer kill right off the side of one of their old logging roads, and that was a big lion actually. That was a big track, and I knew he'd probably fed on it that previous night, and then come around daylight, he'd probably left to go back to wherever he's hiding out for the day, and so I followed his tracks for probably, I would guess, 3/4 of a mile to a mile back onto. It actually turns into Forest Service back in there, but essentially what I was doing, because I didn't know where he was. I didn't know if maybe he only went 200 yards and bedded down, or if maybe he was 10 miles away by that time. But I ended up, what I was doing was I wanted to go back in their ways, but I was just looking for like a good spot to actually set up and call. Because a lot of the country is just so thick, like it's like, man, like I can't even see 10 yards in this stuff. But I eventually got back in, and I figured he'd probably be in that area. And I mean, this story doesn't go anywhere because I didn't end up killing him or nothing. But that's just an instance of like following the track to try to get to where you think you're closer and a good spot to call.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tracking is pretty hit or miss. It sounds like, because they can just hunker down or they could just go.
Yeah.
Which is why you guys opt out.
And I've heard other guys say if you get on a lion track and it's just going in a straight line, you're following it, it's just going in a straight line, to just abandon ship. Like, don't even bother, because that thing's probably so long gone.
What constitutes a straight line? Because in these mountains, is like walking a road, is that considered a straight line, or are you talking about like as the crow flies?
Like if it just seems like it's kind of beelining in a certain direction.
Like the tracks are
if
clearly
you get
on a
on
mission.
one and it's like wandering around,
Just
like it's
meandering.
hunting or
But
something.
you could have like, say, a skid road that's going in a generally straight line, but on that skid road, the cougar is kind of doing this type of thing versus just inline tracks going down the road.
Why do you think that is? Like, what's the significance of them like wandering around?
I think in that scenario, they're likely hunting.
Yeah.
Oh,
As where if they're just kind of going in a straight direction, they've probably got a destination they're headed to. Because that's the other thing we found out is, like, we were talking earlier about, I got to help out a little bit with that study that the Kalispel tribe was doing. I got to go with them a few times. They collared, I won't give all the details because most people probably wouldn't even know what I was talking about, but they collared this cougar, a female, kind of a younger female cougar, just, I mean, like a mile outside of Colville city limits, and collared her. And she ended up, after they collared her, she ended up swimming the Columbia River, and then ended up down on the Colville Indian Reservation.
That's a long
And then came most of the way back.
and what's the span of this?
Just a couple weeks.
My goodness.
Yeah. And in that time, she'd killed a 5-point bull elk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, that's impressive that one cat can kill a
Yeah.
bull elk.
Yeah. And that was a female, wasn't it?
Yeah, and not a real big female.
Yeah.
They're impressive animals.
Yeah,
they're the ultimate predator.
I do believe the statement of an ultimate predator is a mountain lion.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, I don't know how often this happens, but we've ran into it, or at least heard of it a few times over the last 10 years of like cougars getting a hold of wolves, like one-on-one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I know when they had that big, which I think that pack's still up there, but that smack out pack, one of the last collared ones up there was a big male, and it got killed by a mountain lion. And then here just like 4 years ago, they run some range cows and stuff back up behind my grandparents, and the farmer was telling us that he had to meet the game department up there because this wolf collar was giving off a mortality signal, and they went up there, and a cougar just completely ripped its whole neck out and killed it. And it's just like, man, that's a battle I'd love to watch. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
I don't think it'd be much of a battle. I mean,
I mean, I've heard of cougars killing wolves, but
Yeah.
every time it's a one-on-one, it's like the mountain lion usually just wins.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Because a wolf is only strong in numbers.
Right.
You put a wolf by itself, it's like
Yeah.
he's lost.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, go Cougars, you know.
Go
We can't
Coug
touch the
kidding.
wolves. You guys go do it. But
When you're doing calling sequences, so I guess let's paint a scenario because there's lots of different. Say you have a trail cam or whatever. You get out there, you get into an area where you know there's been a cougar within a very short amount of time, a couple hours at least, and you sit down, you do calling. A lot of these stories you've had a cougar come in within a couple of minutes, like a few seconds to a few minutes.
Yeah.
What's your patience level? Because then at the beginning of the podcast, you're talking about 2 feet of snow. You're in there freezing your butt off for 2 hours. You stand up, and there was maybe a cougar that runs off or a cougar that was on their way in. Are you always deferring more to the patience game if there's not a quick return on it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think, especially if you know there's a cougar in the area, I think you've got to call for at least an hour.
And is that an hour of calling sequences, or are you doing 6-7 minutes of calling, giving it a few minutes, 5-10 minutes, 7 more minutes of calling type thing?
I'll usually have a little break in between different calling sequences, but I would guess only a minute or so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think the thing with cats is you gotta keep their attention.
Yeah.
That
Or
like
else they'll
bears.
just
That's
kinda lose
I
it.
was about to say it's exactly like bears.
Yeah.
Bears long calling sequences, and as soon as you stop calling, they're just like, back to
Their
whatever they were
attention
doing.
span is not good.
ADHD.
And we talk about this, and it sounds glorious of all these cougar encounters and stuff we've had, but there's a lot of days of just sitting and
You're talking about
calling, and
you're just telling us
nothing.
the 1%.
For sure. Yeah. The fun ones. We sat, I think it was, well, it wouldn't have been this last winter, but the winter before, our buddy that videos a lot of our elk hunts and stuff, we went out and we're sitting, and I think it was like -7. And we sat there for like an hour, and like nobody could move, and we're like, all right, this is stupid. We're going home.
So this is a good example of that. But that same winter, we had it was like a week or two, just a extremely cold snap, and it got down to like -20.
Yep, I remember
And
this.
I had went up, I'd hopped on our side by side, and I ran up on our neighbor's property. And they've got some fields up there, alfalfa fields, and they've got like just an old little shed on the side of this field up there. And come to find out, when I rode by, there was a cougar in that shed because the door, it was like kind of dilapidated, so the door was hanging off at an angle, and so a cougar could just go in there. Well, with all the snow and the cold weather, it went in there to kind of shelter. Well, when I rode by, it took off, but I didn't know. But when I was coming back down, I could see these tracks coming out of that shed. And I was like, what the heck? And so I went over there, and you could see where the cougar had been laying in there, and then where it had, and I could tell the tracks were super fresh. But, I mean, it was leaping like 20-some feet running out of there. And I'm like, this thing had to have taken off when it heard me coming.
Yeah.
And so I knew I was close behind it. And so I saw which way it was going, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go completely around the mountain there, the ridge, and try to get in front of him and call. And mind you, like I said, it was like -20 this day. So I already had my rifle and my calls with me. So I ride around and get up there, and I knew exactly where I was going to go. There was kind of an old cut up there on the mountainside. And I was like, there's just a small opening right in the bottom of that. I'm going to set up right there and kind of set up on the hill where I can watch that opening. And so I went up there and got all set up, sat down. I called. I think I did both prey distress and cougar vocals, and I sat for 30 minutes, and I could not feel my feet. Like I was so cold, and I was even wearing I think I'd wore like my Sitka Fanatic system, which is like probably the warmest stuff I have, and but my feet, man, they were just, I couldn't even feel them, and I was like, okay, screw this, I got to get out of here. So I left, and I went back home, got all warmed up. A couple hours later, I was like, I want to go like ride around and see if I can ever see where that cougar went. Right where I was calling from, in the opening I was watching, the cougar tracks came right through the opening and then up the old little logging road I was on, and then he went right to where I was sitting, and then you could see he had stepped in my boot tracks where I had walked away when I was done calling, and like followed me out. And I don't know, who's to say, if it was 10 minutes after I left or if it was an hour after I left. But he had came in. I know he'd heard those calls and he was coming, but I wasn't able to sit long enough.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very common outcome of a lot of calling sequences, and not just particular mountain. I know turkeys, like when you just get into a stubborn bird and he won't come in, you leave. He shows up at some point when you're not there.
Yep.
I think that's very normal. Same with elk.
Yep.
Deer as well. I think
Elk
that's
is
just
very similar.
I think that's just the nature of calling in an animal.
Yeah, especially like if you're cow elk calling, Once you start cow elk calling in a spot, and if you think there's elk around, like you really need to stay there for, 40, 45 minutes just
After
to see
you're
if
done.
something comes sneaking in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's fascinating stuff.
That's some great
You got to
cougar.
tell that story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's hear about it. So we've learned, I guess we've depicted all your strategies and just how many cougars you guys have encountered and whatnot. But let's hear the story of this one, because this one's clearly kind of got a medal to it in terms of like where he stacks up with like your guys' best of the best cougar stuff.
Yeah. This that cat there was a big one. That was actually been right at the end of January, like the last couple days of January. Typical me, I was out looking for moose sheds with my dog, and we were in this area where it's timbered, but there's a lot of ceanothus scattered through there, and there's this really old, overgrown logging road that goes through there. And we were walking that road, and there's, I don't think there's actually water in it, but there's kind of like just a little draw, like a finger draw that runs down that the road goes around. And it's pretty thick brush down in there. And as we rounded that on that old logging road, there was cougar tracks coming up out of there onto the road. And I could tell they were really fresh, probably less than 12 hours old. And I'm looking at these tracks, I'm like, holy smokes, like that's a big lion. And I noticed they had blood in them. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Well, then I had my dog with me, and she was really interested in something down over the hill in the brush. And so we walked down there. Well, this lion had killed a yearling moose and had it stashed down in there. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, it's a yearling moose, but it's still big.
Yeah.
It's a big animal. I was like, it's going to take this lion quite a while to eat on that. So later that day, I ran home and I grabbed a camera and brought it back and stuck on it. And I did have cell service in there. So I was like, I'll bring a cell camera and stick it on there. And I might have actually sat on that kill that night, because that's
You
another
did.
thing. Like Colton's story earlier, where we sit on the kills. That'll work sometimes, but chances are, more likely than not, they'll usually come in after dark. But I sat on that kill that night, didn't see anything, left. Well, then later that night, it was several hours after it got dark out, I start getting pictures, and it's this lion and they're eating on that. And this was one of the weirdest sayings too, is because normally on a kill, like during the day, you'll get birds in there, magpies or a raven or something. I never had any birds. The only other animal that was in there as much as the cougar was a skunk.
And it was
And it was like the lion and the skunk would take turns. The skunk
Really?
would come in and eat, and then it would leave, and then the lion would come in. But there was this took place over the course of, I think it was like 5 days, where
And are you hunting at all?
yeah, so like in that 5 days, like the very first night I found the kill, I sat on it till dark. And then one other night, Colton and I both went up there and sat till dark, didn't see nothing. And then one day, I believe it was more in the morning, we did go up there and we tried calling. We set up and tried calling, didn't ever see nothing.
And throughout this 5-day stretch, are you still getting photos of this cat at night?
Yep.
Okay.
And so then that's where it goes to the camera, is, like I said, this lion, what I started learning, kind of patterning off the pictures, was he would never come in the daylight in the evening. He'd always wait till after dark to come in. But he would stay into the daylight in the mornings. And so I'm like, okay, like,
There's your opportunity.
yeah. Like, if I'm going to kill him, it's got to be in the morning. So I think it was a Saturday morning. I got up, and he was there. He'd been there all night. And I thought, I'm going to go. He's been staying into daylight. I'm going to go try to sneak in there and see if I can't get in close. And I drove there. It's about a 30-minute drive from my house. And I could drive up in there most of the way. But then from where I parked, I probably had to hike. I had to walk probably about 3/4 of a mile. And I was like booking it too, because I knew.
In
like,
pretty deep snow too.
Yeah. So the other thing is like, over the course of these like 5 days, I was up there almost every day, and I'd been walking in and out where that kill was. So that had helped kind of pack a trail down in the snow. But I got in there, and I get on the logging road, where this logging road is just above where the kill is. and I'm getting into probably about 100 yards, and I'm just like sneaking as quiet as I can. Well, the rubber on my boots, even though we have this packed down trail, is just like
Squeaking.
it's kind of crunching the snow, and I'm like, that rubber's too hard, and so. And I didn't do this out of, to be macho or anything. It was like purely just to try to kill this cougar. I unlaced my boots and slip them off, and I had thick wool socks on. So now I'm in like 2 feet of snow on this trail, like just sneaking along in my wool socks. And I get to about 40 yards from the kill, and it's daylight at this point, and I catch movement. And the cougar, I don't believe he knew I was there or anything. I believe he was just leaving to go wherever he would hang out during the day. He comes sneaking up, and he comes right up on the road that I'm on at about 40 yards, and he just stops. And I don't think he was even looking at me or anything. He just kind of walked up there, and he stopped and was looking around, and I just pulled up, it was probably like in a second or two, but just pulled up and shot him.
You drop on the spot?
No, I shot him, and then he took off up the hill, and he made like 3 or 4 big leaps. And I wasn't even sure if I'd hit him. Like, I felt good about the shot, but the way he took off, I was like, man, maybe I missed. But yeah, he got like 3 or 4 good leaps in going up the hill, and then pretty soon, like, you could tell it was about as far as he could go, and he kind of started to turn, and then he rolled back down.
And you watched him doing all this?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
What are you shooting?
That was 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah, so you guys are on pretty much the light end of caliber. I mean, you were shooting with a 223.
Yeah.
You were sitting on a Coyote setup with 22.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are not rocking magnums or anything.
No, and that cougar I shot 2 years ago, I shot with a 22-250. I don't know if we've really shot anything over your 6.5 is probably the biggest, but
Well, the very first cat I ever shot, I actually shot. That was one that was just at the house while I was there. I happened to look out and see it, but I shot that one with a 7 Rem mag, which was
blew a hole.
a little overkill probably for that cat. But no, honestly, like I don't. You talking about elk, just their will to live and how strong they are. I'm not saying that cougars don't have that will, but they. You get a pretty good shot in them.
I feel like that's the thing with predators.
Yeah.
Like bears, you hit them in the lungs, like they're the weakest thing on the planet. You hit them not in the lungs or vitals, good luck.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just a predator thing. Like I just don't think they're meant to do the killing, and so their body's meant to chase and do the killing. But when they're the one being killed, I feel like they're not meant to be able to withstand it at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just completely a theory out of thin air.
And
but
I don't think they have like real big lungs either.
Yeah.
So
No.
if you pop them right through the lungs.
I feel like the capacity is very small.
Yeah.
Well, and I just with that cougar, I thought the coolest thing was I'm laying in bed, and it's like, I mean, it's not even light out yet, and I roll over and like open my phone. I'm like, oh man, that darn cougar's back in there again. And I call him, and I'm like, just expecting to be like, hey, yeah, let's go try to kill that thing. And he answers. He's like, hello. I'm like, hey, you see that cougar's on camera? He's like, I'm like 200 yards out from it. All right, call me if you kill it. And then
So did you leave when the camera started triggering that you knew he was on the kill?
probably
No,
whenever
he
you
had
woke
been
up.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
He had been there, but like I said, it was
that
just
particular morning, he wasn't there when you left.
Yeah, he was.
Like you didn't know he
Yes.
was there yet.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we'd gotten pictures of him overnight.
You
He
just
was
went in
there.
with the blind hope that he's been in here every morning.
Yeah.
I just need to catch him at the right time.
Yeah, he's been staying into daylight,
Okay.
and so I need to catch him.
So
But
when he woke up that morning, that cougar was in there on that moose. But it
Oh.
was still probably 45 minutes before daylight. And so he
Oh,
just
I
took
see.
off, never called me, and which is probably a good thing.
Some of us wake
Hey,
up
it worked
earlier than
out.
others.
Oh, whatever. But yeah, and he was like, I'll call you back. And I mean, it wasn't, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes. He called me. He was like, man, I just smoked that thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty
That's
cool.
I don't,
way
some
cool.
people might question like using the cameras like that, but I think in our state we feel like we're so overran by them, and you can't hound hunt them or do anything.
Yeah,
I'm going to use all the tools to my availability
Absolutely.
to try to harvest.
I mean,
one of 'em.
especially an animal like that where it is extremely hard to consistently kill. Like, you just do what you can,
Mhm.
I mean,
And the other
than that-
thing we haven't even talked about is cougar meat is like one of my favorite
Cougar meats.
meats.
It is
delicious.
fantastic.
Very good.
Yeah.
No.
It's- I love it.
What's your go-to recipe with cougar?
I love taking the back strap out and then slice them into like little finger steaks and making fajitas.
Oh,
Super good.
Really?
Yep.
Do you just cook them right to the point where it's fully cooked?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with cougar meat. You know, as far as like
there's, like,
trichinosis goes,
yeah.
but you want it fully cooked. But and that it is kind of tough because like I feel it's kind of like chicken. It's really easy to overcook and then it's really dry.
Yep.
But yeah, if you get it right, it's and you've probably heard it, a lot of other people say it too. But it tastes just like pork. Pork
It's
meat.
exactly like pork.
Yeah.
I mean, the same color, same kind of texture. You wouldn't know, I feel like, other than the fact that pigs probably have like a layer of fat on top. But
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you just looked at the meat itself, you probably wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you could. There's no way you could ever give it to somebody and they'd be like, "Oh, this is."
The
Good.
only difference is maybe there's a smell to it.
Yeah, it
But-
does kind of have its own. It's not a bad scent, but it does have its own little.
Like, it's
scent.
been a long time since I've really handled any cougar meat, but the last time, if I do recall correctly, it just has a much more raw smell to it. Like, it smells.
I think
a
it's
lot
kind
more
of got like
meaty.
a sweet.
Yeah.
Almost a
Especially
sweet smell
bobcat.
to it.
Bobcat has really sweet.
Really, I've never killed
Yeah.
never handled a bobcat, so I don't know.
That used to be my favorite thing was, we trapped for a couple of years and stuff, and you'd kill a bobcat and then cut them up in little medallion deals and then take them to like a house party and be like, yeah, try this meat. And they're like, what is it? Bobcat. What?
Yeah. Cougar meat's good.
Yeah,
It's very good.
we for everything, the elk, our deer, anything we shoot, we process all our meat ourselves and do all that. But over the last probably 5 years or so, like a lot with our dad, like we have really gotten into smoking different things. And so like we do a lot of summer sausage and brats and pepperoni sticks and jerky and all that stuff.
Do you do that with cougar meat too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
we've done cougar brats, which
Yeah.
are really good. Yeah.
What fat do you guys use for that?
We'll usually go and buy some pork fat
Okay.
from one of the supermarkets there in town.
So when you guys kill these cats in the winter, usually most animals are pretty fat. Are these cats fat too, or are they just straight up lean?
It's from what we've seen. I think it kind of depends on each
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, like you
That
might.
one was pretty fat.
Yeah, yeah.
And when,
This
when
one.
we're
seemed
talking
good.
about fat, how much fat are we talking about? Like in terms of like thickness?
I feel on a cat like it's usually.
Is it
Yeah.
like
Like
similar
pretty
to like?
thin.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like a deer, because some
No,
deer you
no.
kill. I mean, they're just
Yeah.
packed.
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
This one probably had the most fat I'd ever seen on a cougar, but
Really?
yeah.
So if I had to paint the picture, this cat maybe like a October deer type of fat, where like they're somewhat lean.
Yeah, maybe end of October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right on.
And they have it more like it's very area specific on their
Right.
body, like
Yep.
more down their belly.
Yep.
yeah.
around their bellies
the
where
muscles
they'll
that
get
don't
it.
get worked.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is interesting.
and that's like we've talked about all the other cats we've gotten, but like I said, this was by far the biggest one. But it's just like once we got up to him and we're checking him out, the head, the noggin on this thing is so big.
So you said you rough taped them. What would you rough tape them at?
It was like 14 7/8, and I think to make, which actually I looked into that using the cameras. I don't think you can actually enter that into the book, which I'm not big on that anyway. But to make, just for reference, to make all-time Boone and Crockett is 15, so it'd be like an eighth of an inch off.
1/8 inch short.
Yeah.
And that's all time Boone and Crockett.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's impressive.
I think awards is like 14 and a half.
Well, and they'd, I don't even know, that was probably 5-7 years ago. They had collared a cat down in Chihuahua that was 198 pounds. And I was like, I would love to see what that thing looks like in person.
that's a big cat.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this
Yeah.
this cat wasn't crazy short of that, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we weighed him. He weighed 172, which 100. I'll tell you right now, 172 pounds of dead weight on your back, like trying to pack him out of there.
in snow.
Yeah, is incredibly difficult.
I mean, for reference, it doesn't. Okay, whenever we talk about animals, it's like 170 pounds. This doesn't seem a lot, but that's heavier than me.
Yeah. That's a big
heavier
animal.
than you too. I'm probably about the same size as you.
That's nice of you, but not quite.
Yeah. Well, now that you're a dad, it's a little different. But
Okay.
When I met Nate, he's right there.
Before I let myself go.
Yes. But it's all good. You're running a marathon, so you'll be back down there.
That's right.
But but that's a big animal.
Yeah.
Like and it's not just like the fact that they're big. That's 170 pounds of pure muscle.
Yes. Yes.
Which is kind of scary because my uncle, when he shot the mountain lion like 5 feet behind him, he came up to me joking. He's like, "Hey, if he mauled me, do you think I'd win?" I'm like,
No.
no. I love you, but no.
Yeah.
I was like,
I found this kind of interesting, but I was talking to a guy that works for Stevens. He actually works through the Stevens County Sheriff's Department, but he's kind of like a predator
Management.
manager guy. So like if there's ever any predator issues, he's kind of the one that goes and deals with it. But I asked him, because there has been, over the years, a handful of attacks, but most of the time they don't result in a fatality. Every once in a while they do, but most of the time, like the girl in Fruitland,
people come to the rescue.
yeah. And yeah, that's the other thing is like if they were on their own, like I'm sure it probably would have gotten them. But I asked him why, they're such efficient predators, like why don't those attacks more often result in a fatality? And he thinks it's because, most of the game that these lions are normally going after, like deer and elk, they got big long necks. And us humans got these short little necks. And so he thought when they get a hold of us, they don't know where to get us. And so they try to bite us on the head. And when they get their mouth open that far, they don't have the jaw strength to close down on your head.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So being short and stubby is a good thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So
So
Yeah,
do
I'll
this
take
when
that
you're
to the
cougar
grave.
hunting.
Yeah.
Just shrug the shoulders up.
anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting
'cause I was like-
conversation. But
Start wearing shoulder pads.
Our necks are as weak as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Any jugular throw on us, like we're dead. And I don't care if it's just one bite. Like you puncture that stuff, good luck.
Well, there was a kid that he was the same age as me in school, and he went to Kettle Falls. But like when he was a baby, he was just like sitting out in their yard, and the cougar ran in and grabbed him. He still got scars. And,
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, really cool guy. But yeah, it's just like, man, I can't imagine. And I think if I remember the story right, I thought like his grandpa or somebody was watching him. I'm just like, I can't imagine being a parent or adult or whatever, whoever's in charge of that situation, having that happen.
Wow.
I mean, that's just crazy. But
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Wow. Well, that's been a fun one.
I enjoyed
Cats
that.
are cool. It's really something to talk to, people with knowledge base about cats outside of the hound industry where you have frequent interactions. To get frequent interactions with cats outside of hounds is
It's rare.
It's rare. Yeah. So we've really appreciated
And
that.
like, just throw this in there. Like, I wish more people would go do it because,
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
like I've said before, like, especially in the spring, I do nothing but shed hunt, and the amount of kills that I find is just, it's not.
I just don't think people even realize like the amount of trouble cats that are having to be dealt with in a yearly basis would blow your mind. I mean, between like right now in Kettle Falls, they got right on the edge of Kettle, they got a cougar that's been in there every couple of days, and it's like not a small cat, and it's in a neighborhood that I mean, how many kids and dogs are that thing eyeing?
Yeah, that just goes back to the importance of predator management as a whole.
Yeah.
And things happen, I guess, and we gain and lose opportunities over the years. Sometimes it seems like we lose more than we gain.
Yeah, I think a lot of
But-
people that put these laws in place, like they think that you're just gonna go out there and eradicate every single mountain lion.
Yeah.
Good luck.
The reality is, like, even if you tried,
Right. It's like
you're
wolves.
not eradicating them.
Yeah.
Like they're
No.
so sneaky, they're so hard to kill, and so it's like, even if you had more liberal laws about it, it's like, I still feel like the population would hardly be taking a dent.
Well, and they're, the way that they have the quota and everything set up is they're estimating the quotas at 13% of the population for those units. And now they're considering all these conflict resolutions where they have to go out and kill these cats. Any cougars that get found hit on the road
All cougar
go
mortality.
towards the quota. And so there was 2 units, up there where we're at, that before cougar season started, September 1st, had already hit the quota. And I'm like, you can't tell me that they're dealing with troubled cats and finding dead cats on the road that they have to kill that make up 13% of a population of one of the most elite predators out there. And so they, before September 1st hits, they said, if you hit that quota, they'll extend it to 20% quota. And I'm like, you will never touch a 20% amount on a predator like that. I mean, they are just far too intelligent, far too sneaky. I mean, they either need to go back to a higher quota and that's the other thing they did too, was once that quota was hit, if it was, during the season, it stopped that week. Yeah. And that's really killed us because, it was always September 1st, December 31st. If you hadn't hit the quota, they'd extend it week by week out to March 31st. And
into April.
Into April. But they, have gotten rid of all that. So I don't know. They either need to really up their quotas or get a better realistic value of how many cougars are actually running this country.
We can use some help with the laws right now.
For sure.
But I guess we want to wrap this up. So you clearly want to encourage people to get out there and hunt cougars. So let's, we talked about your stories and, how you kill them. But, let's go through the general rundown. If somebody just says, hey, I want to start doing this. I mean, obviously, we touched on it a little bit. But tell us about your setup that you'd use for, a rifle, what caliber, cartridge, you name that stuff. And, perhaps your calls, what calls you're rocking, what you would personally recommend. And, just kind of give the green guy a good starting point.
Okay. Yeah. So I run it's a Fox Pro e-collar. I'm trying to think of which actually the specific model is. And it's not like a high-end, $500 call either. It's just a kind of your typical one. And most of those will come, I believe they come with a couple Cougar sounds already on them. So you can use those. Like I said, I bought some of those extra ones that I was able to then download onto my e-collar. But you don't necessarily have to do that. Or you can just use the distress sounds. Like I said, like the rabbit and the bird distresses seem to work really well. But if you're not in the budget or you don't have the budget for an e-collar, just some hand calls. That's harder because
you're calling them to you.
Yeah, that involves you calling them straight to your position. You can't put the sound out away from you. And it also involves some movement.
Yes.
So if they see that,
throat's going to be sore by the end of it. You got to sit there for an hour.
But just getting out there, I think there's so much public ground around that anybody you get a fresh little bit of snow, you can go run around and look for a fresh lion track.
When you're looking for that, do you just blindly say, hey, I'm going to walk this road? Or is there little things you actually look for in the topography or the area?
If it's an area that I've been in that I know where the cougars generally like to go through, then I'll go look in those spots. But if I'm somewhere new and just cruising, I'll just cruise roads.
Do you find that they use roads pretty often?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
They'll cross them at some point.
Yeah. And there's so many roads, but
yeah.
They're just like every other animal. They'll use the road just as much as anything else because it's the easiest path for them. But
it's one of those deals.
And get to know anymore. I'm driving down a road, 25, 30 miles an hour, and I'll see a track and be like, oh, there's a cat. And it's just, get to where you can easily just identify that as and you'll get to where you can kind of tell just by the way the track is. I've had so many guys tell me oh, cat tracks will be in a perfect straight line. And I have found that, maybe if they're talking about it walking in a straight line, but the cat tracks I see are always slightly offset. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, coyotes will walk in a straight line. But the other thing, especially in our areas, you got to think about wolves. Mm-hmm. And wolves generally have, pretty close to about the same size track.
It can be a little confusing.
And they really like roads.
Yeah. Wolves cruise the roads all the time. But, it's once you see enough tracks, it's pretty easy to determine between a cat and a dog. So a cat's usually pretty round. The dog's usually more oval shaped.
Claws.
Yeah. And that's another thing is sometimes you will see claws in a cougar track, but most of the time not.
I've always looked at the pad, in between the pad where it intersects. If the heel pad's really wide versus the more narrow where you kind of have the creases that come down to the side. The X.
Yep.
The X of dogs.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what about your gun? Your deer rifle do just fine?
Yeah, I think.
No, you need a new gun.
So I did.
Great opportunity.
He's
to
got
get
a
new
wife
rifle.
telling him no.
Yeah. I think you want to go big enough to make sure that it's big enough to take the animal down, but you don't need to go really big either. So like we said, we've shot a couple with a 22-250,
He
or a
lost
22, or sorry, not 22, a 223. If you're using a smaller round like that, I think you need to pay really close attention to the bullet you're using.
What are you guys shooting out of that?
So the 2 winters ago, before I shot the one that I'd killed, I actually had another call in where I shot one, and I was using, and granted, it's all about shot placement. I probably didn't hit it perfect, but I was using the Hornady VMAX bullets.
Okay.
And I think what happened, because those kind of like are designed
They
to
blow
hit
up.
and blow up. And I hit that cat in the chest, but slightly off to the side. And I think what happened is that bullet kind of lodged.
Is it sternum?
Yeah, or kind of actually lodged off towards the shoulder blade, off to the side, and then exploded. Because it took the cat off its feet. It went down, and I thought I had a dead cat. And next thing I knew, it jumped up and it took off running. And you could see a pretty good wound on it. But we followed that cat for like
Long
a mile
ways.
and a half, and it eventually just quit bleeding. and it
Basically
was-
down a cliff too, and then it turned around and started going back up. And
Yeah.
we're like,
He's
yeah,
not
I
dead.
don't
He's gonna
think
live,
it
yeah.
wasn't a fatal hit because that cat went a long ways and he quit bleeding. There was no more blood and he was going just fine. But so after that, I actually ended up switching to I think it was a Federal hollow point.
Okay.
And that's what I ended up shooting the cat with then. But at the same time, like I said, it's all about shot placement. Like the cat I ended up killing was at like 30 yards broadside, and I shot it right through the lungs. The VMAX would have done just fine there too.
and that's what I shot mine with was that VMAX, and it was frontal at like 80.
Are you guys shooting this in an AR platform?
No.
No.
A rifle?
No,
Yeah.
bolt action rifle.
Okay.
I just got a little Ruger American 22-250 that I shoot.
Yeah.
So even with that thing, you're not hesitating a frontal shot or anything.
No.
Really?
I shot it. I figured if it got back up, I'd shoot it again. But
Yeah.
Because
But like
to
I
me-
said, like if that's something you're worried about, then
increase
like
your caliber.
Yeah, just be
'Cause
safe
Cougars are
about it
not
and
that
go a little
tough.
bigger.
I
Because I shot the big one with that 6.5 Creedmoor, and that's plenty.
Because like they'll die. Sure, they'll die if you place it through the perfect. But like, what about like the physical aspect of like muscle mass and bone density? Because most predators, like bears, for example, like their bones are way denser than a deer. Like a deer, you can probably hit it with a hammer; it'll probably break. With a bear, I mean, you're punching that shoulder a few times before it breaks with a hammer.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming a mountain lion's the same way because they're designed to take hooves and antlers and all this stuff from things they're trying to kill. And so the reason why I bring it up is because like off the top of my head, I'm like, man, a 223 is really, really small. And like, I don't know if I would like take any other shot unless the Cougar was perfectly broadside or quartering away. Like if he was quartering to me, I'd be like, I don't know if I'd take that shot with the 223.
Yeah.
I've killed 3, and the latest one I shot with that 22-250, but the 2 before that I shot with 223s. And the one was broadside out of the tree stand, but the other one I shot right in the cheek, and it went perfectly down its throat, and it seemed to do
Wow.
okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess experience trumps over
Yeah.
what I think.
But I still even after saying all that, like knowing the anatomy and like where to place your shot is still,
Oh,
king.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, like, man, the smallest I'd go on a cat is probably like a 6.5 Creed.
Yeah.
But that's
I
just
think-
me.
I
also
think
don't
that's a
kill
great
cats.
caliber.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also don't kill cats, so
I think that's a great caliber.
take
for
take
it,
what
so.
I have to say with a grain of salt or 2 grains of salt because I have not killed a cat. No, the reason why I just bring it up is because, like, man, some cats can get really big, and some people, I don't know if this is true or how much merit, but people have told me like, they're hunting and they come face to face with the cat and they go to shoot him between the eyes and they hit him between the eyes and the cougar just takes off. And I'm like, even if the bullet doesn't penetrate, the amount of
Oh, yeah.
energy in it of itself should
knock that thing
yeah,
down.
it should knock them out, right?
Yeah.
But so again, I don't know if it's true. I've never killed one, no experience. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I guess we haven't had anything like that happen, but I think the one you killed's the only one we've ever headshot.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's the only shot I had. I thought it was like a small cat. And me and him were sitting there talking because, like I said, it was 80 yards out his front door. And we're sitting there, and I'm kind of looking at it through the brush. I'm like, it doesn't look that big. And then we shot it. It was like 130 pounds. And I was like, oh, my
Yeah, it was
gosh,
a nice
cat.
this is a
Word.
big cat.
Well, I guess that it makes it pretty clear. It's pretty simple to get into it. Get yourself a call, e-caller if you can afford it. Get yourself, I mean, if you already have a deer rifle, I mean, I'm sure it'll do you just fine.
Yep.
And then depending on the weather conditions, just have the proper clothes for it. Do you consider camo, like actual camouflage, a necessity?
I think you wouldn't necessarily have to wear camo, but I think being hidden and camouflaged well in your setup is important because you don't want that lion to see
Do
you.
you think they, what do you think their eyesight is? Good?
Phenomenal.
It's pretty good.
Very
yeah.
good?
Yeah.
Better
And,
than deer?
Like when you're sitting there, like one thing we always talk about is like when you're
You gotta-
sitting there, do not like move your eyes, but do not move your head. I mean, you can if there's areas
Just like
that,
slow.
yeah, but just be
You don't want
real
to be fidgeting around though,
meticulous.
because I mean they're like every other animal, but they see movement.
Yeah.
So anything that moves, they're gonna.
Because I mean, that's what they literally
Yeah.
use to kill stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
They catch movement.
Yeah.
What about wind? You ever sit up
Actually,
downwind?
the wind is the one thing I really don't pay much attention to.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we've had cats come in behind us where I'm sure they smelled us, but it doesn't. From what I can tell, it's not like they catch your wind and they bolt. You know,
Interesting.
they use their eyes so much more than like I would say they use their nose. So yeah, usually the wind isn't something I pay a whole lot of attention to.
Like when you call in cats, having them circle downwind isn't really a thought. It's just like, I'm just going to set up here and hopefully it goes there.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very interesting. I mean, it sounds basic, but that's something that I would have completely whiffed on my first setup. I would have been, I got to pay attention to the wind. Yeah, don't move. But I would have guessed that playing the wind right would have been a
Bigger
big factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And I'm sure there's probably times where like maybe they do smell you and they get nervous or something. But
Well, I would think
what would actually happen is they'd probably smell you, and then that would make them more leery in their approach, where they would sneak in.
But they'd
Whereas they
still
may
probably come.
have
Yeah.
just come right in
I
beforehand.
think
interesting.
having good visual lanes is a lot better than smell as far as cougars go. Just so you can try.
Well,
to-
you want to be able to see, but at the same time you want cover
right.
because you want the cougar to be comfortable coming in. You don't
Yeah.
want him to have to come out like in the wide open, type of thing. The biggest thing, like to people that want to go do it, is just getting out there.
Yeah.
Like
spend
actually
time.
spending some time out doing it.
And have snow.
Yep.
Because if not, good luck.
Yeah.
It's going to be impossible.
One you can cold call.
It's nice
too.
to have your
That's
blueprint
worked,
on the
but-
ground.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, guys. That's a lot of
That's a lot of
of
information.
really good information, and we appreciate it just as much as everybody else does, I think. Let's move on, close up, and do our fast fact.
I'm game for it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll jump in first. Kind of along the cougar predator topic, and back to Colorado. According to Colorado Parks and Wildlife, Colorado has a cougar population estimated on the conservative side of 3,800 cougars in the state, which I thought was interesting. I did the quick math of 30 cougars on the side of 7 days between a kill, and that's approximately on the low side 140,000 kills a year, which is unbelievable
Wow.
Yeah.
if you think about the mule deer, given that's not mule deer, whitetail, and elk at 400,000. But if the mule deer population of Colorado is 400,000,
Yeah.
they are taking out a significant amount. I mean, just looking at the turnover of new drop, of yearlings across ungulates and predator kills is just a massive turnover of animals.
Yeah, those numbers are kind of
And on the high
scary.
end, 197,000 ungulate kills.
Wow.
If they were killing every 7 days, 140,000 if they were killing every 10 days.
There was a study where I don't know who did it, but like they tracked one particular cat for I think a year, and they just like tracked what that cat killed. The study actually came out to find that mountain lions actually kill a lot of predators.
Interesting.
So like, we'll take the average of 52 weeks in a year, right? So let's say an average cat kills 52 kills a year. I think less than half of it was deer. They killed coyotes actually made up a pretty significant portion of what they actually killed.
Interesting.
And then I don't know if there was a wolf in there or not. I might be mistaken, but they were killing like possums and raccoons and like all these critters that we don't really think about.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not just 52 deer. It's like deer actually made up a lot smaller percentage of that particular cat.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like all cats are like that, but that particular cat that year killed less than half the deer compared to whatever else it was killing.
Oh, very interesting.
It's a very it's like a pendulum, right? Like depending on which cat.
And then you have the cat that kills and only eats the liver of the deer and moves on to the next day.
Yeah, so it just depends. They all have their own personality. Well, in the world of mountain lions, so we kind of talked about their calls, but the most common sound is actually the scream or the shriek. So this is not the whistle. This is like a legitimate like screech.
No.
And the actual term for that, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, is called caterwaul.
Oh, yeah.
A caterwaul.
Caterwaul.
That's the actual term to describe it. So a lot of people say, oh, mountain lion's shrieking. It's like, no, it's a caterwaul.
Interesting.
Yeah. We're just upping our terminology game so,
Exactly.
that we sound smarter than
Hissing
we are.
and caterwauling. Okay.
There you go. Are you guys going to
Guys.
have mountain lion hunting videos at some point?
It'd be nice.
We need to start
yeah.
videoing some.
Yeah.
I mean, just make sure you turn off the comment section.
I've actually,
Yeah.
on some of our hunts, on some of my hunts, a lot of times I'm by myself, but I've tried to film. But like I said, with the movement, it's so difficult to, I've tried to where like, as soon as I start calling, I just turn the camera on and leave it recording the whole time. But then you're generally sitting there for like an hour or an hour and a half. So
Yeah, I hear you.
it's tough, but yeah.
Yeah,
It would be
again,
cool.
I mean, give our listeners where they can find you guys and where they can watch some of these videos.
Yeah, we're on Instagram and YouTube and kind of on Facebook. We're getting there, but YouTube's we got a lot of cool videos coming. We just got to actually sit down and put them together because we've got backlogs from
And
like
a lot of
couple
cool
years.
videos already on there too.
Yeah, and we've got some fantastic elk hunting videos from this last year, and we got some cool stuff coming this year. Clayton has an archery mule deer tag in Oregon, so hopefully we're gonna go stick a big buck on that, and just poke around at house. We got some potential animals that we're wanting to go chase, so hopefully we can catch up with them.
And that's at Bearded Brothers Outdoors.
Yep.
All right.
On both.
On both.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, good deal, guys. Thanks for joining the
thanks for having
podcast.
us.
We'll see you guys next week, not with the Bearded Brothers, so probably won't be as good of information, but, we'll still be here
We're
talking.
trying. We're trying our best, folks.
Thanks for joining.